This podcast is brought to you by the friendly people at Krembo Baked Goods, the San Francisco Bay Area's newest parve non-dairy kosher bakery, proudly serving cookies, loaf cakes, and the best gluten-free challah I've ever had, and much more. Ask about their challah delivery service to schools, organizations, and corporations in the Bay Area. Email them at orders@krembobakedgoods.com for more info, or simply go to Krembo, that's Krembo, bakedgoods.com. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Holy Sparks podcast. Saul K here, super excited and grateful for yet another high-quality guest. And without further ado, let me edify and introduce this young man properly. Eli Tsives is a Jewish student, activist, and actor. He just finished his freshman year at UCLA, where he studied theater at the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. He's also studying political science with a track in international relations. You may recognize him from his recent viral videos on social and appearances on major TV networks. Eli, welcome to the Holy Sparks podcast.
Hi, Saul. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad that you can make some time. And you are officially the youngest guest on the Holy Sparks podcast. So I'm really excited. You definitely have wisdom beyond your years, and I want you to share your story. So tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
So, born and spent the first 10 years of my life in San Carlos, California. That's in the Bay Area. Very simple first 10 years. Small town, public school education, very few Jews in my public school. A very casual Bay Area experience. Then when I'm 10 years old, I moved to Shanghai, China. And I have this incredible international experience. My mother works at Apple, and she was sent on assignment, and we lived there for 4 years, and it was a phenomenal experience. I learned Chinese culture, traveled all through Asia. I speak Mandarin now. It was truly a phenomenal experience. And now, 4 years later, after the time in China, I come back to America. This time I moved to Saratoga, California, also in the Bay Area. And I spent my 4 years of high school at Saratoga High School. Go Falcons. And another amazing experience, public school, study theater there, continue studying Chinese, study media arts, and get accepted into the UCLA theater school. And here we are.
Wow, I love it. Okay. So there was a German Jewish community that moved to Shanghai in the late 20s and early 30s. Were you able to connect to any of the Jewish community in Shanghai?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I forgot to even talk about my entire Jewish aspect of me living in Shanghai. I got to connect with Chabad. I didn't know what Chabad was before then. I was 10 years old. And then we are introduced to this incredible Chabad Rabbi Greenberg. There are actually two. There's the older brother and the younger brother. We were introduced to the younger brother who runs the Chabad in Pudong. There's two sides of the river. There's Pudong and Puxi in Shanghai. So each side had a Chabad house. And I became very close with their kids. I had my bar mitzvah in Shanghai. I really, really got to connect with my Judaism because of Chabad.
That was amazing. And so would you say a lot of Chabads in remote places around the world, they service more travelers, but is there actually like a local community that's there permanently?
But yes, there is a full-time community there. Once in a while, they'd even get minions. It was, they're very strong. They have a restaurant there, a kosher restaurant. They have a mikvah. They have a Chabad house. It's incredible what they've been doing, really.
Amazing. Yeah, I've actually been fortunate enough to travel to China twice playing with swing bands, but that's another story.
Wow.
Later. Okay, so now you had your bar mitzvah in Shanghai. That's amazing. And then coming back to the Bay Area, I know where I grew up in the Central Valley. I had a high school of 3,000 kids. There were 6 Jews there. So you went to a public school in Saratoga, yeah? How many Jewish kids were at your school, would you say?
So 1,200 kids, 10 Jews, counting me and my sister. So very small Jewish community. My last year at Saratoga, I was pretty much thrown into a position of a Jewish representative. A lot of Jews looked up to me. There weren't a lot of us at all. So a lot of them looked up to me and were like, hey, I respect you for speaking up. We're not going to do it, but I respect you for doing it. So that was meaningful. Of course, I wish they would speak up as well. One Jew cannot be the only voice at a public school, right? There have to be many. There has to be many.
And when you say speaking up, what do you mean? What's an example of that?
Speaking up against anti-Semitism, speaking out for Israel's existence. I have faced I have faced so many, how do I say this? Let's go back a step. In 2021, I had a teacher who made anti-Zionist remarks in class. This was online learning, it was COVID. And I spoke out against him. I was shut down. He muted me because you could do that on Zoom. And then I had this teacher the next year as well. And now it's in person classes. It's my junior year of high school, and I speak out against him. I speak out against all the just false rhetoric that he's spewing in class, the bigotry that his words are. And what ended up happening is nothing ended up happening. He's still there. I reported him. I talked to the principal about him. I truly tried to find a way to remove this man as a teacher, but because he has tenure and because he didn't necessarily say anything explicit, he wasn't removed. But let me tell you something. He did say something explicit. He said, and I quote, first I called him out. I said, I'm not going to say his name, but I said, I'm trying to remember right now, but I pretty much said something along the lines of, I believe that we should eradicate all Hamas terrorists. That's what I said. My words, something along the lines of that. And he then said, well, Eli, some people may call Hamas freedom fighters. And to me, that was shocking. To which then he ended up saying, Eli, you're sounding like a Nazi when I said we have to eradicate all Hamas terrorists and Hamas sympathizers. And to me, the fact that a teacher, a figure of authority, was telling a student that in class, I spoke out against him. I said, no, you can't be saying these things, but nothing ended up happening. And there's so many of these situations happening all around the world where teachers are just shutting down Jewish students, and Jews need to speak up.
Wow, that is wild. And so you went to the principal, and this is the Bay Area, ladies and gentlemen, the bastion of open thinking and loving acceptance. I say that with tongue in cheek because there is some of that, and there's also, as you just experienced, there's subtle and overt forms of anti-Semitism here, all over the place. I just experienced it at UC Berkeley. We'll talk about that in a second. But you went to the principal, nothing happened. What did they say? I mean, it's essentially, think about this. Let's put it in another context. What if he just called you a name, right? So that's like bullying students, right? Which is essentially what he just did, what he did years ago, right? Calling you a Nazi, that's essentially calling you a name. Teachers don't call students names, just on a base level. Forget about anti-Semitism for a minute, right? So that's one grounds on which he should have been fired. And then the second ground is this anti-Semitic remark. And nothing happened, is what you're saying.
Nothing happened. When I told the principal this, the principal said, okay, thank you for telling me. I'll look into it. The principal did look into it. The principal did, he clearly did have a meeting with this teacher, because the teacher then walked up to me a couple weeks later and said, Eli, by the way, I need to talk to you. I never said that you're a Nazi. I never said that you're acting like a Nazi. I don't know what you told him that I said. And he pretty much denied everything. And it's my word against his. There was no written proof. There was no recording. And the teacher will always win. The figure of authority always wins. And it's even more sad to say this, but when it comes to Jews and non-Jews, the non-Jew will always win. And that's what I've been noticing in these arguments. And that's why that's where I'm centering my advocacy, is that we can't just allow these people to get away with all of this hate and all of this targeted anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. We have to do something about it.
To advocate on another element of your point, possibly non-Jews may win in the short term, but not in the long term, in terms of an
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. In the short term, listen, you're right. What we're seeing right now, well, we'll get to what we're seeing right now. What we're seeing right now is a whole different thing. We're living through history right now. We're living through history. But unfortunately, we have seen through history that when it's a Jew's word against a non-Jew's word in that exact moment, then people tend to have a leniency towards the non-Jew. And it's unfortunate, but it's the reality that we're living in. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that for thousands of years, our people have been targeted. It's not a surprise. We need to talk about this. We need to teach our youth about this. We can't just hide in a sheltered bubble and be like, oh no, they treat us equally. No, they don't. And we need to understand that. And by understanding that, then we can act on it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Okay. Question. So, when you were in Shanghai for 4 years, did you experience any anti-Semitism there?
I experienced anti-Semitism disguised in forms of anti-Zionist. There was never necessarily a situation where somebody's like, "Oh, you're a Jew, so I'm not gonna blah blah blah." But there has been a situation in my science class where my physics teacher, this is middle school, this is seventh grade, okay, decided to start he just went off on Israel. I don't exactly know why that year would have been, I don't know, 2018. I don't know. It was not like a specific time where he had to say what he was saying. It wasn't like the 2021 conflict. It wasn't what's happening right now. He just was going off. And at the same time, I was in seventh grade. It's not like I was familiar with geopolitics at the time. I was a seventh grader, running around having a good time with my friends. And he started going off on Israel. And I didn't really understand why. I wasn't as educated as I am now. And I told my mom, and my mom sat me down. I'm a good Jewish mother, and she sat me down and she taught me a lot of Jewish history, Israel history. She's okay, you clearly don't know enough, and you need to know these facts so that when another situation occurs, when a teacher starts spilling false information, you know why that's wrong.
Okay, perfect. So this is ties into my next question, which was, it sounds like your mother was a great role model for activism and knowledge, but did you have any sort of training? You're obviously a good speaker for Israel and you've studied a lot, but did you have any formal training or any role models that really helped you in your activism work and your ability to speak up?
Yes, I guess you could say formal training in speaking is just my theater background. I've always been an extrovert. Talking is not one of my weak points. In regards to formal training, yes, I did stand with this Leventhal program, which is a high school program that I strongly recommend every single high schooler who's a junior and senior does. They, for a year, they're teaching you about Israel history. They're teaching you about Israel advocacy. They're teaching you how to combat anti-Semitism at your high school, and they're preparing you for college, combating anti-Semitism at college, at your college campus. So that really helped me prepare for the endeavors I set foot into at UCLA.
Just real quick, you said Stand With Us Leventhal. That's the name of the program?
That's the name of the program. It's
And any high schooler can find Stand With Us and check it out?
juniors and seniors in high school can find Stand With Us. Leventhal, they can apply into. They don't just take everybody. You have to apply. There's an interview because they're choosing students that they want to know are truly, truly dedicated into the cause of standing up for our people. And I've met so many incredible people there. I strongly recommend every single high schooler does it. And also join your Jewish youth groups that are in your local area. I was part of NCSY. They're all great. They're all great. And they all have one common purpose, and that's bringing Jews together. And one of the biggest things I have noticed in regards to what I like to call self-hating Jews is that they did not grow up in a close-knit, tight Jewish community. And because of that, they've tried to assimilate and they are trying to reject their cultural background. So be close, be with your Jews, have Jewish friends. It's so important, so, so important.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we'll talk about the big vision a little bit later. But tell me, besides the Leventhal training, do you have any other specific connection with Stand With Us? Have you done some more work with them, or was it that one couple years of training there?
It was just that, but I've kept in good touch with them. Yeah, I know Roz very well. That's the CEO of Stand With Us. She's given me personal advice on some issues that I needed to have advice on. And I would love to continue working with them. I'm going to do the Emerson Fellowship soon. I haven't applied for it yet, probably in a couple of years. The Emerson Fellowship is the college version of Leventhal. I highly recommend it for all college students, even though I haven't done it yet. I know exactly what it's about. And it's pretty much Leventhal, but on steroids. They're really teaching you a lot. You gotta be older. You gotta be prepared for all the facts that they're gonna put into your head.
I love it. That's great. Okay, so let's get to UCLA. So many of us have seen videos of the encampments, blockades, verbal, physical clashes. And this was your first year on campus. So just give us the overview of your first year, and then we'll get to some specific questions.
Yeah, first year on campus. Quite a first year, right? So less than a week after October 7th, Students Justice for Palestine held their first rally where they were chanting for intifadas, they were chanting to boycott from Israel, your classic chants. We've seen it all before. This is before Israel even went into Gaza. Israel hasn't even responded yet. I'll never forget. I remember I was walking through class and I saw walking through the hall through UCLA and I saw this protest and I was like, oh, I know what to do. So I ran to Hillel. I grabbed an Israeli flag and I went to that protest and I held up the flag. This is in October. This is in October, and I hold up the flag and I'm the only one there. And this there's like hundreds of them. And there's one of me, and this other fellow amazing Israeli Jew. His name is Guy. He's on the UCLA volleyball team. He actually just graduated. He saw me, and this kid's like 6'6", and he came and he joined me. He had a flag in his backpack, so he holds up the flag as well. And we're both standing there, just the two of us, holding up our flags. We're not yelling at them. We're not aggravating them. We're just there, and we're there for one reason. We're there to show them that the Jewish people aren't going anywhere, and that Jews at UCLA who are walking past us should not be afraid of them. And I like to think we were very successful because people were walking up to us and saying, hey, listen, I just want to say I love what you're doing. And then they would leave.
Kol hakavod. I love it. Okay, so that was like first week in, right?
Yes, that's just the first week.
Okay.
That's right.
So let me ask you this question. So obviously you're brave enough to just go into the heat of battle, bust out a Israeli flag, interact with people. But what about when you're not doing that and are just on campus? Did you ever feel threatened or have experiences that weren't you like going out to directly confront people, but people coming to you? You know what I'm asking?
I do. And you know what? Unfortunately, that's the reality of I've become not necessarily by choice, but I have become this public figure at UCLA. Um, Most of the people at UCLA know who I am, and I'd say a good 50% of UCLA hates me because, I'm walking through class and people are like just some people just like yell free Palestine at my face and they walk away. People figured out where I live in my dorm, so they would walk up to my dorm room and they would write on my every dorm room at UCLA has a little whiteboard outside, and they would write like free Palestine, free Gaza from Israel. I had an Israeli flag poster. Somebody just crossed it out, big check mark. Somebody wrote coward over my name at my door. The funniest one actually was at 3 in the morning, they connected their phone to my speaker and started blasting Arabic music and woke up me and my roommates. So yeah, do I get targeted? Sure. Am I afraid of them? Absolutely not. It's why should I give them the privilege of showing fear? That's what they want to see. What they want to see is me walking around with security guards, right? Or they want to see me not at UCLA at all. Maybe they want to see me move out and start taking online classes because that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to scare me away, and it's never going to work. The Jewish people have been fighting Jewish hatreds for thousands of years. This little stunts that they're pulling, it's not going to work. We're not going anywhere, right?
Nachon, meaning right on. What about other students that you know, obviously outside of yourself? What can you tell us about Semitic incidents in terms of other Jewish students?
Yeah. So like you said, I'm very loud and proud and I go heat into battle. But there are some Jewish students who they don't necessarily aspire to do that. And that makes sense. Once you put your face out there, there's no going back. Once they know who you are targeted. So a lot of Jewish students, they try to do the opposite. They hide their Magen Davids, they take off their yarmulkes. They really try to like blend in. They don't have a mezuzah outside of their door. Like I have a mezuzah outside of my dorm room door. Like I'm here, come get me. Hashem is protecting me. But a lot of students they don't really want to be out there. And the problem with that, I understand. I understand. It's a safety concern. I understand. But the problem at the same time is the more of us that are quiet, the more it looks like there's not enough Jews that are speaking out, because there aren't then enough Jews that are speaking out, right? Then it looks like, oh, there's so many Jews that clearly don't care about what SJP is doing. No, most Jews do care. Just a lot of Jews don't have the courage, unfortunately, to speak out. And we need to all unite together, because sure, by yourself, it's a little scary. But with the whole community, with the whole Jewish community, we're unstoppable.
Agreed. So here's another question for you. So I was just at UC Berkeley for the last year doing Middle Eastern language and culture studies, and there's 45,000 kids on campus, right? And maybe 1,000 of them even care or know what's happening, and maybe half of those are engaged on one side or the other. That was my experience there. So what are the numbers like at UCLA?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, one that I can't really go into the specific percentages of, but what I can say is our Jewish community at UCLA is very strong, very Zionist, and very connected with our culture and our heritage. And that's what I love. We are not Jews that, we don't mess around. You come to target us, we will defend ourselves. In regards to how many people are actually engaged with the conflict at UCLA, I can't give you those numbers. What I can tell you is the night before the encampment was shut down at UCLA, there were, my personal estimate, maybe around 2,000 people running around in keffiyehs, hollering like wild animals, running through the school. I was there that night. I went by myself. Again, not a smart decision I've done before, but I went by myself, was walking around. It was very dangerous. One person walked up to me and said, "Do you want to fight?" Like, he knew who I was. He squared up on me. And I'm like, "Bro, I'm not going to fight you. It's not going to end well for you." No, I didn't say that. But I said, "I'm not going to fight you because we're for peace." There's no situation where I will ever instigate a conflict, ever. Right? And of those, give or take 2,000 people, majority were not students, probably.
Right.
Right? There were people that were like fully grown adults running around. But there were students at the same time. There were classmates that I recognized through their keffiyeh. When you know a person's eyes, keffiyeh will not hide that. I recognized my own classmates from my theater school. People I once called friends that pretended to care about me on October 7th. They pretended. They were like, "Hey, listen, man, I know what you're going through. Really, if you know what I'm going through, why do you put on a keffiyeh and then dance around with these animals?" So that was a very heartbreaking experience when you lose what you thought were your friends.
It was also common in many of the college campuses. I would say the majority of the encampments protesters, they're not students. They're people that were paid to be there, or they're adults, or they're homeless people, or there's a kind of a mishmash of different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now my last interview was with the Rabbi of Hillel, Rabbi Toba, who's lovely, and tying these two interviews together, what's been your experience with Hillel on campus over the last year, and how has it supported you, and talk about that a little bit.
Listen, we have 3 strong Jewish organizations on campus. It's not just Hillel. We have Hillel, Chabad, and Olami. All 3 of them do amazing work. I would never choose one over the other. They all have specific strengths. They all have some weaknesses. But when they work together, and what I love about UCLA is they do all work together. They really are an unstoppable force. Hillel is a nice place we have a beautiful Hillel building, which we're very fortunate to have. Some colleges don't have even a space for Jews at all. When I would go into the Hillel building during the middle of the day to get some lunch, it's just nice to see friendly faces. It's nice to know you're in a space where you love everybody and you're loved by everybody. That's something truly special. Chabad is phenomenal. I go to Chabad every Shabbos. We have a huge Chabad Shabbos turnout. We get like 200 people, 150 to 200 people come to Shabbos. I'd say 80% of them are Jews. So we have a bunch of non-Jews that come as well that are like really like connected with our community and are really supportive. And Olami hosts really fun events, pizza nights, sushi nights, events that I try to go to when I can. Because again, any opportunities to be with my people, I try to never miss out on those opportunities.
So a lot of people might not be familiar with Olami. So talk a little bit about who they are and what niche they serve.
Yeah, Olami is also a It's one of they're the major three. There's Chabad, Hillel, and Olami. They're also really big nationally. A lot of colleges have them. They do very similar Friday nights, Shabbat events. Each college has their own way of what Hillel does, what Chabad does, what Olami does. Specifically, UCLA, Olami has smaller Shabbats, 10 people, very close knit. But the events that they host are the fun, big ones. They have a nice space, like a cool, like Olami ping pong tables, and and they have a rooftop camp, bonfire, not bonfire, but like fireplace. It's just like it's nice. What they do specifically is another place for Jews to be with their community. I cannot give you the specifics of what the Olami mission is on their website, but they're great. They're all great.
That's good to know. Olami, like my world, right? There's so much more I want to talk to you about, and I appreciate your perspective. It's refreshing and different, and I like it. I like the variety. So, really, what do you see moving forward, going into your second year here at UCLA, in terms of personally, and what do you think needs to happen differently moving forward? Because, everyone's on summer break. A lot of people come this fall will still be at war, and for probably another year or maybe 2 or 3. So what do you think needs to happen? What are you going to do? And what do you suggest?
Number one, it's very basic in my opinion. It's not complicated. It is UCLA, every single college, you could start with colleges, then states need to adopt it as the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, right? The IHRA definition of anti-Semitism is crucial. It is a working definition of anti-Semitism. It pretty much says that any hate speech against Israel, and I'm not talking about criticizing the Israeli government, because that is well within your rights to do so. All Jews criticize the Israeli government at least once in their life, right? But no, this is about criticizing and denouncing Israel's right to exist. That is considered anti-Semitism. And schools like NYU just adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism after a lawsuit, right? Now, students will no longer be allowed to chant, Israel has to go, because that is anti-Semitic. And because anti-Semitism is against code of conduct at most universities, they'll be subjected to disciplinary action. So schools need to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism.
Okay, I think what you're saying is the IHRA, the International.
Yes. IHRA, yes. Yeah.
Cool. That's what he's saying. So you can look it up. Yeah, and I'll put a link below. You can check it out. Okay, what else?
Well, now it goes into some legal issues. I think specifically at LA, our district attorney was not prosecuting any of the people that were arrested. A lot of people got arrested by the police when the encampment was shut down. They were all released the very next day. If a protester realizes that they could get away with anything they do because they will be released because the DA does not prosecute them, then they'll continue to do it, right? So by now we need to be a little bit harder on law in this situation. They have broken a law. They have been arrested. They need to be sent to jail for it for a certain amount of time. Maybe then they'll learn, and maybe then they're not going to go and do it again. I think also the second you break a code of conduct at a university, such as the encampment itself was breaking UCLA code of conduct, they did not have a permit to be there. The second you do that, suspension, expulsion. And if you still don't care and you still choose to stay in that encampment, fine. The next day, police will come and remove you. That is a very simple and basic way to get rid of the scar that is formulating on college campuses, the scar of anti-Israel bias, the scar of anti-Semitism that is truly hurting Jewish students.
I think that's great. In terms of actually making that happen, does your school have a chancellor, dean? What are the steps to actually take it from talking to implementation?
Yeah, we have a chancellor. We actually have a new chancellor. Chancellor Block just left. This was his last year, so now we're having a new one. He's coming from the University of Miami, I believe. He's Jewish. Let's hope he's going to be with the Jewish community, because Chancellor Block is also Jewish, but he never really stood strong with the Jewish community. There are specific steps to take, signatures, a lot of advocacy for people to be loud about the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. I can't go into the specifics right now because But you could ask my mother. She's working on it. She's really trying to get it passed. At the same time, state legislators, state senators, these people, we could be advocating for them to try to push the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism to our government, to our state government, because say California passes the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, then I believe, now I'm no lawyer, but I believe that now everybody in California has to oblige to that definition, which then would automatically make public schools having to oblige to that definition. That, of course, would be a lot harder to pass.
I'll post that below. It's good for people that haven't seen it before. Kol hakavod, I think it's great, and I think it's actually not that complicated what you're asking. Look, so encampment violates school policy, they get suspended, they get expelled, next day they get arrested. Zagazin. That's it.
That's it.
Okay, besides that, is there anything that you feel UCLA can do in the coming year to make it a safer place?
I think that really, like I said, falls in line with what I just said about the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism.
Let me ask you this. Can people reach out to you if they want support or if they want more information, specifically if they're students on campus or anyone else? Should they just find you on Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a DM. I try to respond when people ask me questions, I respond. I really try to. I get like thousands of messages every day, but I really try to respond. I do my best. I'd love to pass any messages that I can. I'd love to help out anyone that I can, especially people that are in college and people that are younger. If you're a high school student, you reach out to me, I will respond to you because I really care, because you guys are the future. Because once I'm out of college, you guys take my place and you need to continue the advocacy.
I love it. So a couple more questions. I know you have many years ahead to decide how you want to impact the world in incredible ways, but what are some visions you have for yourself? What do you want to do when you get out of school?
So, like I mentioned, I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor, and then after acting, I don't want to say after acting is over, because as an actor, acting is never over. But acting, we live in a world. No, but seriously, I do want to go into politics eventually. I will go into politics. I see myself the career of Ronald Reagan, a great example, a very successful actor, and then very successful politician. That's exactly what I want to do, and I hope everyone will support me in doing it.
You got my vote, brother. Okay. Anything else you want to say? And I have one final question for you. Anything else you want to say to our viewers, our audience?
To the viewers, I just want to say, stand up for what you believe in. And to all the people that have kids, raise your kids as loud and proud Zionists. There's nothing more important than the next generation, going head in, head first, Israeli flags to the protests, unafraid of their bigotry and unafraid of their hatred.
I love it. Kol hakavod. Okay, final question to you, Eli. By the way, my great grandfather was named Eli, after whom my son is named Elijah. So you have a very powerful name. God is my God. Okay. Final question. What do you think the Jewish world needs now most, and why?
I think right now, the Jewish world needs to unite on one issue, and one issue only, and that is protecting Israel and combating anti-Semitism. And I know it sounds very cliche and very cheesy what I just said, but it's not. There's that famous saying of 2 Jews, 3 opinions. It's unfortunately that's very true. I was in a meeting yesterday with 20 Jews and we were talking, and we started arguing about the most silly thing in the world, that there doesn't need to be an argument. We all want the same outcome. And our outcome is to live peacefully and be treated equally. We want to be normal citizens. We don't want this uncalled for hatred against our community. If we unite for this common goal and really work together, we have Jews, the Jewish community, one of the smallest, but one of the strongest. When you ask me one word to represent the Jewish community, it would be family. We're a big, big family. And family argues, yes, but at the end of the day, family all wants one thing. And if we unite over that one common goal, we'll be unstoppable.
I love it. Well, Eli, thank you so much for making some time out of your busy schedule to be on the Holy Sparks podcast. And I always want to end with the blessing that Hashem should bless you with more strength, more connection, more opportunity to demonstrate what it is to be proud and Jewish and out loud, and that you should be, of course, safe, and you should encourage other, not only students, but parents and high schoolers to stand up for themselves, to stand up and be proud, and to connect with other Jews and create this incredible tapestry, which is our Jewish family. Thank you so much for being on the Holy
Amen.
Podcast. And
Thank
we will
you.
see you on the next episode.
Bye. Thank you.